I'm Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali. I want to thank you all for a couple minutes of your time, and we are now going to transition to the next person who's going to lead us in storytelling, I believe. Let's give them a round of applause as they come forward.
It's not climate change, it's climate crisis because we are right in the midst of it.
It's pretty much a wide consensus that we will experience more frequent heat waves, more intense heat waves.
Nature's not there as it used to be anymore.
Our ocean is becoming warmer, so we now see areas that are dead zones where nothing can survive.
Kami sangat khawatir sekali pada anak-anak yang setiap hari dia bernapas dengan menghirup udara yang kotor.
We lost our home that day, destroyed.
Extreme weather events increasingly are affecting the delivery of healthcare services.
I would see my patients come in the door, and I was like, oh, thank God you're okay.
One thing that I wasn't prepared for is that the problems don't end once the fire burns out.
Climate change and our health are intrinsically linked.
We see a sort of an expansion of the Aedes mosquito in areas where you didn't used to see it before.
Se a gente tivesse assim, surto de dengue aqui na comunidade, seria terrível. A gente não tem estrutura para lidar com tantos pacientes. Se a gente...
The paradox is that the health sector is part of the problem today.
The energy requirements for a site like this are massive.
The problem is always how do you move from the realization of something to, okay, I'm going to act.
I wanted to become a scientist and use my knowledge to help fix one of the major environmental concerns of our time.
There are data gaps that exist. The data we are collecting is very important to bridge that gap.
You start realizing that the magnitude of a problem is more important than you thought, but once you detect it, you can fix it.
Our job now is to pass on the traditions and stories to the younger generations so that they know who they are.
The best solutions come from that healthy level of questioning of why. Why can't this be improved? Why can't this be better?
We as health professionals, we are really the first and last line of defense when it comes to the health impacts of climate change. We are only as healthy as our planet is.
So that's only the start. I'm Jenny Miller. I'm the Executive Director of the Global Climate and Health Alliance.
I'm Cecilia Sorensen. I'm the Director of the Global Consortium on Climate and Health Education. I'm an emergency medicine physician at New York Presbyterian Hospital.
And we're here today to share with you a couple of films from this BBC film series that GCHA, my organization, worked on with BBC Storyworks Commercial Productions over the past year. So there are about a little over 20 films in the series from tackling a diversity of climate and health impacts, and also looking at climate and health solutions specifically. And these are stories about a range of issues and also from a range of places and geographies around the world. We worked on this series with BBC Storyworks because of the importance of storytelling to doing the work of advancing action on climate change to protect people's health. So with that bit of introduction, we're gonna, in this session, share two more of the films. So please roll the first full film.
I feel like this planet is a gift, and we're surrounded by so much beauty. And we have this position where we can destroy it or we can take care of it. And it turns out when we take care of it, all of life flourishes. When I was growing up, the poster child for climate change was the polar bear on the iceberg. That was what we thought of. We thought about animals that were far away and things that were changing, glaciers that were melting. But more and more, the exposures that we're seeing resulting from climate change are things that we've been seeing a ton of almost every day. Exposure to severe extreme heat, more wildfires. We cannot just stop breathing the air or stop drinking the water, right? But we know certain people are more vulnerable. It's like the very young, the very old, people who have any chronic underlying medical condition. I see these impacts of climate change on health nearly every day that I work in an emergency room. Our healthcare systems are dealing with climate change, I would say, on all fronts. There's been really good research which has shown anytime temperatures get above a certain average, that we start seeing increases in morbidity as well as mortality. My name is Cecilia Sorensen. I am an emergency medicine physician, and I'm a climate doctor. Climate doctor is a new breed of medical professional who focuses their work on understanding the complex links between climate change and the health of the patients that they take care of and the communities that they look after.
My wife is, she's a force of nature in a good way. She's a talented and intelligent leader in her field. She's a great partner in life. She's my adventure buddy. And that spirit of adventure is very much reflected in her professional endeavors.
I'm an associate professor of environmental health sciences at the Mailman School of Public Health at Columbia University in New York City. I also direct the Global Consortium on Climate and Health Education, basically over 300 health professional training schools in over 60 countries, where at the level of the dean or head of school, they've pledged to train their students in climate and health. Thank you all so much for being here today. We look at North America and we're seeing, the darker the circle is, the more evidence or certainty we have that these impacts are happening and they're truly. Bringing health into the climate conversation is relatively new. Doctors aren't trained, and nurses aren't trained to think about environmental health. I think the result is that we're not necessarily diagnosing climate and health related issues as well as we could. And when we're not identifying that our patient's health is being impacted by this, we're not necessarily providing the right treatment.
Interactive workshops are really critical to training this generation of providers to effectively provide care in our changing climate. We're able to draw connections in real time and see climate change and health in practice in these types of workshops.
I think of workshops like these as being most important for the patient at the end of the day. They are going to make the healthcare professionals, the nurses, and the social workers treat patients better and understand their context better. And that's going to allow me to be a better caregiver to patients at the end of the day.
We're here in the Columbia Medical School Sim Center. Sim centers are used around the country and around the world to train medical students, nurses, physicians even, in understanding cases that they are likely going to be seeing in their medical practice. It's been really, really hot outside. We've been seeing a lot of cases of heat stroke. Do you guys think this could be heat stroke?
Yeah, it's a good idea. It's something that we had thought about.
Between the years 2000 and 2016, over 125 million people were exposed to heat waves. Heat-related illness is a spectrum of illness. On the severe end of the spectrum is what we call heat stroke, and we diagnose it based on an elevated body temperature and neurologic dysfunction. Some of the work that we've been doing is to recognize that this is a very time-sensitive condition and to develop protocols so that when someone comes in and is diagnosed with heat stroke, a cascade of things start happening to immediately begin to cool people. It's one way that health systems can become more resilient and become adapted to these types of changing climatic conditions that we're seeing. I think the biggest challenges we're facing are around transforming the health sector to be more in line with the climate realities that we're dealing with. We're seeing more drought and we're seeing repeated exposure to wildfire smoke. Wildfires are a natural phenomenon. They've always happened and they will continue to happen, but they're getting worse because of climate change. And as we experienced recently in New York City, there were wildfires in Canada and we had the worst air quality day in the world.
By early afternoon, the sky was really, really dark orange. It stung my eyes. It made me cough a lot. The air quality was just horrible.
The health impacts from breathing in wildfire smoke can be as much as 10 times worse than breathing in simple tailpipe exhaust. How do we equip health systems to be able to deal with this? It's very difficult, but it's something that we can and need to address. Climate change and our health are intrinsically linked because climate change affects the air we breathe, the water we drink, the soil we grow our food in. We are only as healthy as our planet is. We as health professionals, we are really the first and last line of defense for our patients, for our communities, when it comes to the health impacts of climate change.
Is it a little weird to sit in a room and watch a film about yourself in front of an audience?
Yes.
So the film articulated very clearly the importance you place on preparing health professionals to be ready to treat patients in the climate era of the climate crisis and being that first line of defense. But you're also a huge spokesperson on the issue of climate and health. Can you talk a little bit about why you thought it was important to make this film and the role you see for health professionals in telling the story of climate and health?
Yeah, thanks. Great questions. And I think education is one of our most powerful advocacy tools. I think by and large, when health professionals understand the impacts of climate change on health, they do something about it. And I think the biggest barrier we're facing, frankly, is that we don't have enough health professionals who understand the impacts. Because I believe, and I've seen that when people have the education, they end up coming up with creative solutions wherever they are. There's over 50 million health professionals, and that's just doctors, nurses, dentists, and pharmacists in the world, not counting all the other health professionals. That is an overwhelming number. And my feeling is that if we can get all these people everywhere in every community on board with this, that we're going to start seeing change. So I see, health professionals in communities are trusted in so many different facets of society. And so education to me is just this powerful tool. And what we're doing at the Global Consortium is providing education globally, free, easy to access in whatever language we have to get the message out. And so making this video, I think, however, self-humiliating it was to do it, was important because we have to step forward. And I think showing, a health professional as a person, as a human being who is, dedicating their life to this work, hopefully will inspire others. And I've just seen so many of us here in this room really using our credentials, using our professional expertise, and putting that sort of on the line, but really standing behind it together to bring credibility to this. And I would just say, in the past 5 or 6 years since I've been doing this work, how much momentum we've gained is incredible. And so this is just, I think one story of this, but I know everyone in this room has similar stories and is doing incredible work. So it was a fun project.
Well, thanks. You are a real trailblazer, and I hope you'll be an inspiration to others to kind of become those champions and storytellers as well. Okay, it's not every day at COP that you get to sit and watch a bunch of movies, but today is that day. We have another film. And as I mentioned at the outset, this film series really tackles a diversity of issues from a diversity of places. The climate crisis as a health crisis is not a single, it's not one vaccine is not going to solve this health problem. There are a range of different impacts on health and a range of different solutions that are needed. So this next film takes a look at the issue of water and access to clean water. And let's run that next film.
We're sitting outside on a regular day, and I'm seeing this boy woke up pushing a wheelbarrow, and he had 2 jerry cans. I'm thinking about the kids in the cities at the time, and I'm looking at this boy, and he had been walking a long journey to go get water. That really hit me. It really hit me hard that a young person needed to take a journey to go get water. A journey that my grandmother needed to go take when she was a young girl.
due to climate change, we're seeing floods, we're seeing droughts, we're seeing different weather patterns. And these add stress to communities who already lack access to clean drinking water. Access to water affects our health and hygiene.
Water has always been a struggle for as long as I can remember, with climate change in mind. The biggest change we've seen over the last couple of years is one, the climate change effects are very, very high. In South Africa alone, it's always a health challenge that we're facing. So I realized that maybe there's a role that I can play as someone from this community and see if we can solve this problem at a very local scale. Hello, welcome. My name is Mrandeni. I am a water scientist. Our filtration systems are made from locally sourced macadamia nut shells. The macadamia nut shells was one of the materials that we started using because the shells themselves are quite hard. So when you crush it, it doesn't disintegrate into dust. And so we're able to make that into an activated carbon. That crushed material essentially gets added here. That is good for removing organics. That's the material that causes the water to smell or taste bad. And then the membrane material, which is the nanofiber membrane. So that removes viruses, bacteria, anything bigger than 0.001 micron. And then sterilization and then distribution. Brand new. Yeah, this is the brand new.
My name is Darusha Naidu, and I'm a senior associate in R&D quality at Reckitt. Show me what you've done, Lindeni.
Yeah, sure. Let me show you.
Reckitt is a company that is responsible for some of the world's most known brands in health and hygiene. My fascination for water started with my chemical engineering background. One of my favorite subjects was engineering design. We work side by side with the Kusini Water team as a mentor to provide my skills and my expertise for quality assurance. This is part of Reckitt's ambition to accelerate community-led social enterprises as a way to enable access to water.
We've got 2 areas that we operate in. 60% of all our sites are in schools, and then we've got community sites, all of them in low-income communities. Our water boxes collect groundwater or any other water source. It goes through our water box treatment system, and then it gets distributed to the pipes within the school as well as the bathrooms in the school.
Recently, there's been an outbreak of cholera in the country, specifically Gauteng, where we can see a clear lack of adequate drinking water and contaminated systems in the area.
Hi. How are you? My name is Mr. Slogo.
Nice to meet you. I'm from Reckitt.
It's about more than 10 schools that are benefiting from this process of Kusini.
Yes.
That's why I'm saying Murundeni is a God-sent person who came to assist us as community. Parents have that confidence. They can send their learners to school because they know the water is purified.
One of the biggest challenge we've got here is we're a small organization, so we don't have a lot of institutional people. So the first thing was, how do we improve our quality? We started from scratch. Myself, Darusha, and everything is still here. The demarcation, the safety plan, all these things was because of their input. So for me, it was very impactful.
We are seeing people come together as individuals, as communities, as social businesses to take a stand, to fight against climate change.
There's so many areas every single day that we can save water. I think for me, the kind of world that I would like to leave behind is one where every single kid has an opportunity to live in an environment where there's no possible harm from water, regardless of their socioeconomic background, would have the same type of opportunities as every other kid here.
So when BBC Storyworks and GCHA started working together on this series, it was really important to us not only to tell stories that raise the alarm about climate change as a health crisis, but also showed solutions and showed that there are directions we can move, there are things we can do, there is hope. And I think that's critically important. So we're gonna need to wrap up soon, and in a moment I'll tell you where you can see the rest of the films on the series and what our hopes are for how these might be used. But before that, Cece, any final thoughts about the role of storytelling in this work of protecting people's health from climate change?
Yeah, it's such a great medium. I love this series, and I love it because it inspires hope. I think when we tell stories, it activates our imagination, right? And I think we're going to need a lot of imagination and ingenuity and creativity. And I think when we tell each other stories, it activates that, right? It kind of sends that idea that we can come up with solutions that don't necessarily seem immediately tangible. I also think we're in the process of creating the story of humankind right now, right? We're at this huge tipping point. And I think with our imaginations, we have the potential to imagine a future. And when we see solutions like this, it helps us believe that there's a way forward. So I love the series. I love hearing about this. It really, I think, brings hope to our work because we have a lot of dark, heavy stuff that we have to lift. So I think the more we tell our stories, the more people can relate to the issues that we're seeing and inspire them to sort of see a solution.
Great, thanks. So when the very first trailer for this started circulating around the health community, I had somebody reach out to me and say, "Oh, this is fantastic. Would it be okay if I use some of the films in my classroom?" The series is going to be running and available for at least the next 6 months. I think in the GCHA website, we'll keep it on our site forever, I hope. But yes, we want people to use these stories any way that you think they might be helpful. And there are a diversity of stories that might address any number of different contexts and situations. Please use them. That would be fantastic. Also, BBC Storyworks will be promoting them widely and getting them out broadly to their audiences. Our hope is that the issue of climate and health will be elevated and lifted up and seen by people around the world, and that'll, start to open up the possibility for these kind of changes. So I'm just going to leave you with how you can see the rest of these films. There is a dedicated website, theclimateandus.com. If you go there, you can see the whole series. If you're based in the UK or China, you can't access that site. The entire series is also available on the GCHA website. ClimateandHealthAlliance.org is the GCHA website. Please go view the films, use the films, tell your own stories, and thank you for joining us today.